Good morning. Today we are going to be talking about the Argentina Truth Commission. In order to understand how we got to a Truth Commission in Argentina, we have to look at the political history of the country. So in 1946, General Juan Perón was elected president of Argentina. He ran on a campaign focused on the repression of the liberal opposition. His campaign was about industrialization and aims to provide greater economic and social benefits to the working class. He created a party based on the virtues of social justice, and his ideology fell somewhere between communism and capitalism. He ruled until 1955 when a military revolt overthrew him, and he was exiled and he fled to Spain. From the period of his rule from 1946 to 1955 would be known as the Peronist years. From 1955 to 1973, a series of military regimes ruled over Argentina, and the Peronist party was banned from holding any political office. But then in 1971, the acting president was focused on restoring democracy, so he allowed the reestablishment of all political parties, including the Peronist. At the invitation of the acting president, Juan Perón came back to Argentina and ran for office and was elected in October of 1973 as the president of Argentina, and he made his wife vice president. This ended quickly because in July of 1974, Juan Perón died, and this left the presidency to his wife, and she was unprepared and underqualified for the job. And so in March of 1976, a military coup removed Isabel Perón from office, and a military junta took over Argentina with General Jorge Rafael Videla stepping into power. This coup was the start of a 7-year armed struggle between the military juntas and an opposing leftist guerrilla movement that would be later known as the Dirty War, or the process of national reorganization. So under Videla's leadership, the military junta that took over control of Argentina imposed numerous restrictions on its citizens, including censorship. It banned trade unions, and it brought state and government under military control. Videla then started a campaign against suspected dissidents. The regime set up numerous detention camps across the country where thousands of left-wing supporters and political dissidents were jailed and prosecuted. Those targeted included students, militants, trade unionists, writers, journalists, activists, and pretty much any citizen that was suspected of left-wing activity. During Videla's reign, it's estimated that between 10 and 30,000 citizens were disappeared, tortured, and killed by Argentina's military dictatorship. And they were disappeared and killed by the military junta in order to silence social and political opposition. In 1981, Videla was succeeded by General Roberto Viola. Viola was unable to keep control of his military allies, and in December of 1981, General Leopoldo Galtieri took control. Galtieri had a failed invasion of the Falkland Islands, and he was removed from office in 1982. And then in 1982, General Ronaldo Bignone assumed presidency. During his presidency, he reinstalled political parties and general elections were announced. And it was in 1983 that democracy was restored when Raúl Alfonsín won the presidential election.
Just 5 days after taking office, President Alfonsín repealed the military amnesty that was previously implemented by the military coup to protect its members from investigation, and established la Comisión Nacional sobre la Desaparición de Personas, CONADEP, which translates to the National Commission on the Disappeared. Argentina's Truth Commission is unique in many ways. To start off with, Argentina's Truth Commission did not come about as a result of an armed revolution or imposed by external powers. Instead, it was formed by Argentina's freely elected democratic government, making it an 100% Argentinian project. One of CONADEP's most unique features was its mandate. CONADEP was strictly focused on investigating and uncovering facts about the disappearances of people between 1976 and 1983, including the location of the bodies. Additionally, another of CONADEP's unique features was its tightly controlled commission creation process, in which presidential discretion set the terms of the objectives in areas of investigation, which may explain its strict mandate and limited time frame. The commission did not hold public hearings, but it did have a prominent public profile, taking over 7,000 statements, including 1,500 statements from survivors. Alfonsine only gave the commission 180 days to conduct its investigation and come up with a report. Inevitably, such a time-restricted commission resulted in limited findings. Lastly, one of the most unique features about CONADEP was the government-sponsored publication Nunca Más, translated to Never Again, which reported the findings of the investigation. The picture below shows President Alfonsine receiving the report. Nunca Más became an overnight sensation, allowing the whole Argentinian public to be aware of its findings. Argentina's Truth Commission has both positive and negative. Its greatest success was its usefulness in later prosecutions, as the testimonies gathered were used to convict many major military generals. Additionally, the commission was successful in uncovering the truth of about 9,000 disappearances, bringing closure to the many Argentinian families. However, the commission had many flaws, one being its limited time frame. The limited time frame restricted the amount of findings they could have probably found if they took their time to do more investigations, especially because the Truth Commission was established a few days after the president took office, and people were still afraid about being sought after by the military. This might explain why the numbers estimated of 8,960 people that the report published goes against the human rights organization's estimate of about 30,000 disappearances. Additionally, another failure was that it only investigated a very specific number of years. As we know, a lot of things that happened in Argentina went beyond the time frame that was given for CONADEP.
So the commission recommended establishing a reparations program for the families of the disappeared, prosecutions, follow-up investigations concerning persons who were still missing, and judicial reform. As a result, in 1992, the right to identity was formed to find the bodies of the disappeared. Then in 1994, there was an amendment to the Constitution in Argentina, which included making ratified international treaties equal to the status of the Constitution. The reformed Constitution obligates the state to adopt measures which would ensure the enjoyment of human rights. Reparations were a payment of $220,000 in state bonds paid to the family members of the disappeared listed in the Nunca Más report, or who were later reported to the government's Human Rights Office. Also included in the reparations program was a monthly stipend for the children of the disappeared, waiver of military service, and housing credit. In 1985, information found in Nunca Más was used to prosecute until the military forced the passage of Ley del Punto Final, which put a stop to a vast majority of the prosecutions under threat of a coup from the military. The law was eventually overturned and caused the reopening of over 700 cases. As of November 2018, the Attorney General's office reported 3,007 people charged, 867 people convicted, and 110 acquitted of crimes allegedly committed by Argentina's last military junta. Of 599 cases alleging crimes against humanity, judges had issued rulings in 203, including Jorge Videla, who claimed responsibility for the actions of his subordinates during the war. He died in prison in 2013. For lessons learned, Even after decades, citizens will continue to demand justice. Expecting pushback from the perpetrators is important, but in the case of the Truth Commission alone, it was able to be successful since it was originally thought of as just a fact-finding mission. It shows how a country with the right people and resources can gather testimony and evidence in a short period of time. The distribution of the publication was a success and can be taken as a lesson, widely publicizing what occurred and giving people something physical to look at, which declares what happened to them, is both powerful and cathartic. People never just forgive and forget mass atrocities, as is evidenced by the continued marches which take place in the Plaza del Mayo to this day by the mothers of the disappeared. And that is the end of our presentation. Are there any questions?